我们。
这是我们年后第一场比赛，就希望保持之前赢的心态，正常玩就 OK。
刚过完年回来，我们马上要和 FPX 交手。我觉得我们最近的状态都挺好的，过年休息回来，状态也都保持得不错。
在强攻的时候，效果确实非常的无敌，而且 Loken 的伤害爆炸，麻辣香锅进场直接被 Loken 射成筛子。
LPX 선수가 되게 LPL에서 호구모 같은 걸로 피지컬 좋은 모습을 많이 보여줬기 때문에 절대 못한다고 생각하지 않고 잘한다고 생각하고 있고요. 저도
这位机场 AOE 打得很足，正面加良在阻隔，但韦恩这个时候已经把龙哥给输出死了，而且韦恩还活着，再收掉一堆后。
其实过完年回来又变强。如果他玩大队的话，我可能会让他一直触发他的被动。
跟 FPX 的中端对线的话，让我拿到我想要的英雄，我就可以压他。
我对于年后第一场比赛的话，
会抱着一个必胜的心态吧。
因为我们都是新人，冲劲很足，所以能打到这样的成绩也不会觉得很奇怪。
下一场比赛的话是你们新年的第一场比赛，但是也是你们的第一场失败。
It is week 4, day number 5 of the LPL, and the battle between East and West continues. Yesterday we saw a losing streak that spanned across multiple seasons come to an end with TOP picking up a victory, as well as Invictus Gaming continuing to assert their dominance. Today, live from the Shanghai Superbrand Mall Arena, we'll have the first match today, JDG Gaming against FunPlus Phoenix. Both teams are backstage getting ready for that match. Followed by a match live from Hangzhou, where LGD will take on Bilibili Gaming at LGD's home arena. 2 more exciting matches, 2 more cross-conference games, and we're just getting started with the start of cross-conference. Hello everyone, I'm Matt Fishtuit. Joining me is Clement Chu. Clement, how was your Lunar New Year?
Oh, it was great. You know, I went back to Taipei and my grandmother fed me quite a lot, just like all grandmothers do.
Well, that's great to hear. Clement got fed, so did all his enemies in the top lane whenever he picked up Kled in solo queue
hey,
recently.
my Kled is great, man.
I don't want to hear about your Kled anymore. Let's go talk about what I actually want to talk about, hear about
Fair
from
enough.
you, Clement, which is the standings at the moment in the LPL. Because after yesterday, IG continued to assert their dominance. TOP finally got their victory. Vici still yet to pick up one since coming back from the LSPL, and OMG slumping down further in that Western Conference.
And the important thing to note here is that even though we're 8 games into cross-conference, the standings have not changed relative to their own conference. It's really important to remember that the playoff seeding is only dependent on your own standings within your own conference, and cross-conference is how you get over those roadblocks in your own conference.
And it's really curious to see what other strategies these teams are going to put into effect in the cross-conference. Are they going to change the way they play in their own individual conferences? And there's games they can't lose. There's games that they have to win in order to secure those points going back into regular play.
Definitely, and we're looking at a lot of pressure on those bottom teams, RNG and FPX, who is playing today.
On top of that, we'll be able to see FPX play against JDG Gaming. That's going to be the first match of today, followed by LGD taking on Bilibili Gaming at the Hangzhou Arena later on. But first, Clement, I really want to talk about FunPlus Phoenix, because coming into the LPL, Clement, this team was incredibly hyped up, and we just saw in the videos there, they were talking a lot of smack towards JDG Gaming. First game back from Chinese New Year, it's going to be their first loss too, apparently.
Yeah, talking about the smack right there, they were talking about the Kog'Maw pick. There's 2 people in the LPL that you do not give Kog'Maw to. One is SMLZ, the other is LWX. So I have to say, sorry Loken, but I think you're bluffing right now.
Well, we can get to them a little bit later on, but really we have to take our eyes and look towards the mid lane here for FunPlus Phoenix, because they, in the Demacia Cup, looked really well, but so far on the Rift, Bing has been shut down heavily in that mid lane.
Exactly, and this is the player that we really need to see some improvements from. 4 weeks into the LPL, has not picked up the Zoe, does not play a good Azir, and what's happening is we feel like his team is kind of giving up on him. They're saying, hey, just pick the Taliyah, we know you're semi-good on it. He's been placed on that champion 4 times in a row now, and he's also going up against Yagao, which really tips this very heavily into Jingdong's favor.
Especially since so far, in the 2 losses JDG Gaming have picked up, it was coming through the mid lane where they were able to lock down Yagao. And it really begs the question, can Bing actually do that? Because he needs to step up in order to control that mid laner, especially potentially with the help of his jungler, but it's going to be difficult for him to do just that.
We have to talk about the rise of Jingdong. Like, in the preseason, nobody thought this was going to be a good team, but they step in with this relatively unknown new rookie, Yagao, and everything changes. He's currently carrying 30% of his team's damage, and the most important thing about Jingdong is their mid lane and jungle kill combos. We talk about the Zoe Kha'Zix, we talk about Galio Jarvan and Malzahar Lee Sin. These two people, Clid and Yagao, have been able to secure 79% of first bloods. That's the highest in the LPL. And once they get rolling, it doesn't stop. So it's really going to be about Bing and Pepper stepping up to the plate and slowing them down, because the only two teams that have been able to do so have had Doinby and Rookie on the league. Now, is Bing enough? Is he at that caliber? I don't really think so.
And it's really going to be a difficult task for Bing to try and step up and become that caliber in this match after the Chinese New Year break. If he can, that's going to be good for FunPlus Phoenix. Being able to lock down that crucial mid laner from the team of Yagao will be great for them. But if he can't, the onus is going to go elsewhere on the map. And a lot of people are looking towards that bottom lane matchup where we heard all the smack being talked in the pregame here. LWX going up against Loken. This could be the breaking point between the two teams.
And we have to talk about the contrasting styles here. LWX, despite the worst stats, he is actually the hyper carry player. Like we said before, lots of attention onto the Kog'Maw, being banned away from him very often. Also the Tristana, the Caitlyn, and the Vayne. This is your guy that after 30 minutes, he's going to carry the game. On the flip side, Loken, even though he has really good KDA, is more of that stand back in the team fight type of player. Lots of Ezreal, lots of Varus. He's he's really benefiting a lot from all the attention being shifted towards on Yagao, which means that he has a lot of room to operate.
He also has the potential to step up in this match. We already heard from LWX, we heard a little bit from the rest of the teams here as well, but I know a lot of eyes are not going to be going towards this bottom lane. Yes, there's a potential to make a break, but I really want to hear your thoughts. Where do you think is going to be the breaking point for FPX as well as Jingdong Gaming, if it's going to be FPX that try to take down these giants?
Yeah, Jingdong is definitely the heavy favorites here, but if they are going to win, I think it's going to have to come down to Gimgoon. Remember, FPX just took a game away from Invictus Gaming, and the way they did that was Gimgoon was able to 1v2 in the top lane against the Shy and Ning on Furor. Now, that's not an easy thing to do. The Shy is probably one of the best top laners we have in the league so far. On the other hand, I feel like Zoom has been taken down a notch just because of the patch. 6 games on Ornn so far, his most played, being nerfed this patch. And teams are starting to notice that he doesn't really have much of a champion pool. You take away the Gnar, you take away the Ornn, then he's forced on things like Yorick, which don't really work. So it's not a very good matchup in that top lane for Jingdong.
And on top of that, as you mentioned, Gimgoon can already play those carry champions like the Fiora, can try and take it to Zoom as well, especially if they're able to pinch his champion pool.
He also plays
further.
Kled.
Yeah, but his Kled's a lot better than yours, Clement. So, you know, let's see if he can play Kled a bit better in this match against Zoom. But really going to be looking towards Pepper as well. We already mentioned if it's going to be Bing and Pepper stepping up to the plate against Yagao and Kled, they have to do a good job in this match. But Pepper could also focus elsewhere on the map. Potentially move up, help out Gimgoon. Potentially head down to bot lane, give LWX that favor to go up against Loken. But he kind of has to pick somewhere to move towards.
Definitely, and we've seen Pepper being kind of frustrated. He's been trying to play the 2v2 in the mid lane, but so far not much success. People know that if I take the Jarvan away from him and he's playing a 2v2 with Bing, a lot of times we can just out-mechanically play you. And I really want to see Pepper bring more focus to Gimgoon, because this is going to be their winning matchup in this series.
And I really want to see as well if Jingdong Gaming swap out any of their strategies. If that starts to work for FunPlus Phoenix, if Gimgoon starts to get ahead with the help of Pepper, does Klid change his strategy? Does he stop going into mid lane and picking up these kill combos with Yagao and bolster Zoom at the top side of the map, or help out in the bottom lane where both these AD carries seem to be going at each other before the game even starts?
It's really interesting because Klid has had a lot of success with his top laner as well. He's getting a lot of his first bloods not only in the mid lane but also in the top lane. We talk about the Ornn and Lee Sin combo that they use so well to punish these Gangplank picks. That could be another factor coming in.
We're going to take a look at Jingdong Gaming's lineup. Zoom, Klid, Yagao, Loken, and Lu Mao in the bottom lane for JDG.
Yeah, definitely the ones you need to notice right here is Yagao in the mid lane, one of our star rookies, and I think he will win that rookie award. For FPX, we have Gimgoon, Pepper, Bing, LWX, and Crisp.
And again, this is a team that was very hyped up coming into the LPL. Had a decent showing at the Master Cup before the split started as well. However, they've only been able to take down the top of the top of their conference and the bottom of their conference. In between, it's not working out too well for them.
Yeah, and we really have to touch on the way they lose their games so far. They've had a lot of blowout losses in the early game, like down 2,000 gold by 10 minutes. And a lot of times it has been because they've overreached their boundaries in that 2v2 mid lane. Once that collapses, we can see Pepper kind of lose his cool a little bit and play significantly worse. So that's going to be one thing that we have to note from this player. He needs to keep his temperament with him.
We'll have to see if he can keep that temperament, because on top of that, for FPX, yes, they're the underdogs going into this game against Shindong Gaming, but these matches really matter. We already talked about cross-conference and how the points are significant for them. If they're dropping games to the middle of the pack, but still able to take down the likes of Snake, still able to put up decent performance in these losses, these wins could be important for them, especially when they can take out teams like JDG if they do.
Definitely. They need to score one for the Western Conference so far, because the West is being beat up by the East. It's 2-6 right now, and after today, I think it's going to be 7-3.
Well, Clement thinks that JDG is going to be able to pick up the win here against FPX. We'll actually have to send it over towards our casters to see how game one is going to go.
Thank you so much, guys. My name is Pulse. I'm here with Raz for the call on this. What are you doing today, Raz?
I'm doing quite well. I mean, we already have to go into this set, and I feel like this set is it's going to be the deciding factor of how strong the middle of the pack is for either West or East.
Oh, yeah, 100%. And also for FPX, because we talked about them, we were saying that when they go up against the teams from East, maybe that's when they start accumulating wins. But everyone else in their group is not doing well right now when you look at the Western Conference.
Yeah, here's the thing about that kind of whole line of thought, is because you don't recognize, or at least you start to realize very quickly how fast these Eastern Conference middle of the pack teams are growing. Suning Gaming, Jingdong, LGD even, all of these teams going straight into the Chinese New Year's break, we're starting to have burst out performances. We even saw Rogue Warriors come out to the second place of the Eastern Conference, and we did not see that one coming. They started out 2-2, so East Conference looking incredible so far.
I mean, for a lot of teams, it's especially the teams that you look towards having a lot of potential, like WE, like EDG, these big teams, including RNG. You want to see them nut up or shut up, right? Coming out of Chinese New Year, that's the time where you need to start getting wins, because if you don't, there's such a big advantage being built up from before Chinese New Year by a lot of these teams, as you said, in the middle of the pack. It's actually very difficult to overtake them following that play.
Yeah, so that's why immediately thinking just about what the meta change going into 8.2 means for me, means for these teams, is that I want to see what Jingdong can do to kind of outplay, of course, FPX, or outplay, let's say, Rogue Warriors, because once they got to go back towards their own group, they have to learn quite quickly. I think this patch actually works very well for Jingdong, because we were already seeing quite a lot of Galio games coming in from Yagao specifically, and he's honestly a bit of a mailman for the team, because once he gets the initial push going for them, once the 2v2 mid lane matchup works in favor of him, he roams so consistently, so effectively, 78% in terms of the kill participation that he gets for his team, just based off the Malzahar and Galio stats. So he's been so strong for himself, and with how much Galio has risen in priority, that's what I'm going to be looking towards, especially starting in Champions League.
And it's going to be Bing facing him down in this game as well. And, you know, if you look at the games where they've suffered, it's been the other player in the mid lane being able to contain him. So we'll see if Bing can do that, because usually he's on Talia and he's running away, but Talia has been banned out in this game alongside Jarvan and Sejuani in from JD.
Of course, that's the most played pick for Bing. Bing, stylistically, wants to be able to get out of the lane. Sure, he's played one Cassiopeia game, and I was actually quite impressed at how FunPlus Phoenix were able to play around that. So that gives me a little bit of hope that even though he doesn't have the Talia, that he could play towards a different style entirely.
Maybe there's something else in the back pocket for him. Azir, Camille, and Zoe with the ban outs from FPX, and it will be a first pick of Kalista for Loken, actually, for JD.
All right, the Kalista pick. So even though we were having that trash talk about Kog'Maw, we're not going to be seeing the Kog'Maw. I mean, there's still a possibility for FPX, but I don't think they would want to be able to pick the Kog'Maw into the Kalista pick.
Yeah, definitely doesn't seem like a great matchup to me. FPX are going to first pick Kha'Zix though for the jungle, following multiple jungle bans out there, and another priority on Tam Kench for Crisp in the bottom lane. So that does start to signal maybe more of a hyper carry.
Well, Varus is still up, and I really do think Varus right now is kind of risen in priority as the top AD carry. So I would like for them to pick that up earlier on, just so they don't get pinched out in second phase. The Kha'Zix pick for me is going to be pretty key for Pepper, because he needs to be able to win out in these jungle matchups, the 1v1 if he's going up against Clid, or the 2v2 if he's going up towards mid, which he's been doing quite frequently. It's either Kha'Zix or J4, Now with J4 getting banned, him snatching that Kazakhs pick seems incredibly important for me.
Now this is really interesting. A Scion locked in for JD Gaming here, and I know backstage we were all talking about when are we going to see another Scion? We saw the Scion yesterday from the Shy, and it was absolutely sick. But who's actually going to pick it? We were expecting it was going to be in the second series. Zoom is going to be the one to pick it up here against Gimgoon.
There were questions about what pick he was going to go towards because Orin did get that nerf, so picking up, of course, the Scion makes a lot of sense. That being said, it got picked in first phase. We haven't seen the support just yet, so it could very well easily be the support since it is a blind pick.
True, it is a blind pick, and there's a lot that does well into Scion currently. So
my
Gimgoon
bad,
has the pick of the litter. So
Tahm Kench is the pick of the litter in the support position, so he will at least know that he's going up against the Tahm Kench if he's willing to pick it up to support for Lu Mao.
Yes, indeed. Lee Sin was also the pick up for Clid, so one of the strongest Lee Sins in our league. We have a lot of strong junglers, but Lee Sin definitely very much a Clid champion. And Vladimir locked in for FPX on first phase, so you'd have to assume that would go to Gimgoon.
You don't get to see the Lee Sin pick globally in any other region other than, of course, in the LPL. And these two players, Pepper and Clid, do play quite a bit of Lee Sin and have success with it. Clid has a lot of success with it, picking it into a bad matchup technically, because Kazakhs will blow you up if you find them 1v1. But the best thing about it, of course, is utility. Find yourself in that level 6 position, and you are a playmaker, so that's going to be interesting for me, what Clid can do once he's able to level up in the jungle.
Yeah, oh yeah, I still remember the highlight clip of Clid last year when he literally just soloed an entire team with Lee Sin with that kick in the team fight. But Tarek will be the ban out here against JD, following with another Bard, actually, aimed at Mao. And to be honest, the only real Bard player we've had in the LPL has been Caveman so far, so that's very interesting. Varus was the ban out here against FPX, and you were signaling towards that because we had the Tahm Kench pick up early on.
To hit on the Bard point, yeah, Mao's had some really great Bard games thus far, so it makes sense that you would want to pinch it out just a little bit more, and it's a good pick into the Tahm Kench. That does go to the main point of the 80 carry picks getting kind of pinched out. So now we're going to be seeing LWX once again go towards one of his, I guess, marquee picks. He could go towards the Kog'Maw, could go towards a Vayne. It's possible. Not a good matchup initially, but once you get to a level 6 point, you can actually find yourself in a side lane matchup just going up against the Kalista. So that is a possibility, but I'm not a fan of it. We would have rather just picked up the Varus in first phase.
Yeah, absolutely. And plus it is 8-2 currently in the LPL, so Vayne has been hit in terms of numbers, so it's definitely a weaker pick now than it was. Rise for the mid lane there for Bing, and it will be an Orianna response from Yagao actually, so not going for a massive hyper carry there, looking more to just beat him out in lane, since Orianna is a good matchup into Rise here.
Ooh, I like this hover. Yeah, before we even want to talk about that, we have 15 seconds left. The Orianna pick, great into the laning phase, and we technically don't know what lane Vladimir and Rise are going to go towards. If you ask Snake, Snake would love to pick the Rise into the top lane matchup. But the best thing about Orianna is it does very well into both matchups just because of the range advantage she has.
And because it is FPX at the end of the day, you most likely expect it to be the Vladimir going into the top lane, because Gimgoon has been most of his games so far been on that Vladimir pick. Alistair was the final pickup from JD Gaming alongside the Kalista. Pretty much anything that's melee and has a lot of use in melee is going to be fantastic with Kalista. Of course, using the Fate's Call, Ezreal was the final pick for LWX.
All right, already FPX showcasing that they're going to go for a double tier composition in Rise and Ezreal. Not big of a fan of it, or at least the bottom side of the map specifically. It seems like FPX are going to struggle in terms of finding a winning lane. You might end up seeing a few inspiration masteries going for just kind of like get that extra push in lane. They can get themselves the dematerializer. Ezreal and Tahm Kench have been finding a little bit of success. Tahm Kench is great into the Alistar matchup, especially if you got yourself the dematerializer. So they might work off of that, but once you get your first base off, then you're going to be finding yourself in a stat deficit.
That's definitely a problem for FPX though, because in a lot of the wins that we've seen from FPX, not necessarily series wins, but in the map wins, it's been from getting those early game advantages off the back of maybe a crazy play out from Pepper, but generally the lane's winning as well. So actually drafting these lanes that will start losing, definitely a problem, especially after yesterday we saw OMG versus IG. That was pretty much every game from OMG where they were just unable to find lane wins.
That's true, and so it does become a real worry if the team like Jingdong Gaming are strong around the vision that they can create. That's why it starts to become more of a matchup between the junglers here, because the jungler is going to be setting down, of course, the early vision for their team. And if Lee Sin doesn't get bullied out by the Kazakhs, if he can place proper visions to keep his lanes up, safe, and pushing, then Jingdong should have the early game for me. But that's a big but. Kazakhs is a great matchup into it. If he gets onto the map a lot earlier, and if you can find the Lee Sin, And if you can find the mid lane gank, because I love a Kha'Zix Rise gank, being able to set up with, of course, the Rune Prison. So that has a lot of potential. The 2v2 has been what we've been focusing on for FunPlus Phoenix, and it looks like they've been trying to accelerate that. They just need to kind of win in the jungle matchup first before that becomes a factor.
I know a lot of this talk is about the champions on paper and how it's meant to work out in theory, but when you look towards FPX as a team, Pepper, he's very aggressive. Sometimes he goes in and he'll win the game for you in the first 3 minutes, almost like old World 6 actually when I think about it, but what's happened more recently is he'll maybe a 2 versus 2 in the mid lane won't work out. I remember Clement was saying that on the analyst desk. And then what happens from there? It kind of spirals out of control for FPX.
Yeah, because tempo is a big point. And if, of course, Pepper goes for his early game ganks in the mid lane before even like clearing out the other side of his jungle, then that just showcases where you are. It's unsuccessful. Remember, that's a massive risk to be taking. And if it's unsuccessful, that puts your lane out to dry. Which is why I like, and this is kind of a side point, why I love the fact that Gimgoon's not necessarily going on to GP here, that GP is kind of like a blind. We haven't seen GP in the series, just because that requires your jungle to be up in tempo, to be able to protect you in those technical 2v1 scenarios where GP is very vulnerable for dives. They've been failing in that front, so they've been trying to bolster that. So I like this attempt.
Well, it seems like an adaptation from the top side of the map from Gimgoon, right? It's just like, if we're not able to win the 2v2 in top, maybe we can put that pressure towards the mid lane and have that one win out. So that's a new style from FPX that we have to see if it will actually work here into a team like JD Gaming. And then JD at the same time have Yagao in the mid lane. So that's someone that you have to try and contain if you're any team in the league.
Oh, 100%. And even just like kind of zeroing in on this top side of the map that you're talking about, kind of the new style, looks like he's going towards more of a sustain heavy in the top lane. Picking Vladimir obviously works out well for him in doing so. But going up against Sion is such an X factor. We've only seen that one Sion pick, and it was on
the Shy yesterday.
And he got a solo kill based off that because Xiang was surprised at the burst damage. Of course, there was a bit of a mechanical error on his front in terms of being able to get the ulti into the wall. That didn't stick, and he was just surprised from that point forward when the Shy just completely surprised him by nullifying his wallop for his ulti. So those mechanics can shock you. You learn for the next play, essentially, the next time you play against the Sion. This should be, unless of course he has extensive solo queue knowledge going up against Sion or playing Sion, that first experience for him. So going for Gimgoon, he needs to watch out because the range that Vladimir does have in terms of gaining sustain, very much in range
of the Sion abilities.
Sion Q. So that's going to be rough to see. And I feel like at one point, Observer's going to pan up top side, and we're going to be seeing Vladimir up in the air because he just got knocked up.
Yeah. Because that is really surprising because you have to play the lane very differently. Like, brush control becomes even more prevalent because if you can charge up Decimating Smash in Fog of War, then you're probably going to land, if not onto the champion, onto the minions, you get the push coming out. But also depends what we see in terms of maxing in top lane from the Sion. Yesterday, the Shy was maxing E, but we could also see a Q max. That's been happening in the LCK.
Yep, and we've only been seeing Comet, of course, coming out of Sions globally. So Comet's the big one. You get the proper range off of your Emax. If you use your Emax, you'll see the damage off of it. Of course, when the new Sion was first released, that ability was a little bit busted because it just had a lot of base damages off of that one. So you just essentially max it, not have much mana come off of you in terms of using it, and you just win lane. Now the big turn back is if you actually don't get much of an effectiveness on it, if you don't hit frequently, you just lose mana. And in this lane specifically, going up against the Vladimir, you lose so much because Vladimir just wins the lane if he's able to stay in the lane for as long as possible.
Well, as you can probably tell, guys, we are currently trying to resolve a technical issue on stage, which is why we're currently sat here. So just stick with us for a couple seconds. It should be just a couple minutes, maybe 3 or 5, give or take, and we should be getting onto the Rift.
It gives us a bit of time to take a step back and talk about the compositions a little bit before we head into it. No, it's funny. No, it's funny. I'm going to tell you what I saw today.
What's that, Raz?
I saw a North American Challenger game. Already going to be like, Lord have mercy, what are you about to tell me? Now, Levi played, and he played the Lee Sin pick. Because Lee Sin was something that I'm always very interested in seeing Lee Sin players outside of the LPL because it's a rarity. A lot of people have that worry and like, why are you picking Lee Sin? If you want damage, then pick Kha'Zix. Pick like Rek'Sai even, a jungler that actually just has that skirmishing potential. And if you want utility, well, why aren't you just picking Jarvan? Why aren't you picking Sejuani? Like, there's so much, I would say, simplicity to those other champions that you're like, well, what does this champion provide? It provides like all of the above, and if you have a very skilled player, which loops back to my point, Levi getting that play on Lee Sin, then you get to see beauty happen. You get to see a beautiful picture, and that was essentially the early game kind of sliding that you have. Great control that Lee Sin can have. Hits level 6, able to get a lot of plays, make a lot of plays happening for that team. Now the reason, and here's the moral of the story, and this is why this is going to be a little bit of worry for Jingdong. Levi did not win that game. He got outscaled that game. You get outscaled by the Sejuani pick, by just the general tankiness, and of course you have the lineup in front of you where you're about to get into the game. And so the worry is that with Lee Sin, sure you have the utility of the kick and the skill of being able to make it happen, but you're also going up against the Tahm Kench. And so there's a real worry about getting outscaled and even your pick potential not working just because the Tahm Kench is going to be able to just kind of
eat up
save
the target.
Whoever you're trying to kick out.
If Tahm Kench happens to be in the wrong place at the wrong time with your Lee Sin, then unfortunately the target you're trying to kick now is just in the belly of Tahm Kench, and you're in the middle of the enemy team, so you just die.
We've seen him. We know who he is.
I actually think it's the same dude who comes back every single week.
1,000%. I know that voice anywhere.
Really, Mal?
Yes.
All right, let's take a look at the keystones here. So it is a Comet in the top lane, punctuated by Cowbell. We've got multiple unsealed spell books, a lot of inspiration. That's what you were saying about FPX, expecting a lot of inspiration coming out from them.
Yeah. So, of course, top side of the map, you already see what Gimgoon's starting off with. It's going to be the Smite. Would be surprised if he uses it for the red buff itself. Kha'Zix can take it himself, god damn it. Just head into the lane, of course. Vladimir will be able to smite out, I would say, the cannon minion coming through, or just really any minion, get a proper push up against it, because he needs the push if he's going up against a Scion. Scion will have that push potential going up against you 100%, so Vladimir should have struggles being able to contest that.
So just helping out on the blue buff. That's a guy who's practiced the leash on Scion, getting a pre-charge on Decimating Smash.
I was lying, by the way. He smited the camp. So that just means that Pepper's going to be a lot faster in getting to the second camp.
He's already racing towards his blue buff right here. Lee Sin's just moving on to his Mercorvs as we speak. In the bottom lane, just a bit of poking happening so far. Aftershock on a Mao. Aftershock's, of course, going to be a massive keystone on this patch.
Yeah. Extra 70 resistance just off of placing that CC. Now, of course, looking at LWX's aggression. 11 solo kills this season, most out of all the AD carries. I'm not surprised. I'm really not. That's the thing about LWX. I looked at the graph a little earlier on, and you're like, he has low numbers, but the thing about LWX is that he is that X Factor. I already said X Factor about the second time, but this one is true in the sense that LWX, he can come off with a Vayne game, come off with a Callista game, and there is real carry potential around him, so I really do want to see him grow season after season, split after split. I want to see him kind of find himself some consistency, because he does amazing things, and the problem with him is that he gets into these team fights and then has a habit of face tanking, losing focus a lot of times.
Definitely true. LWX is
here we go.
Deadly, but there you go. Unfortunately, if you engage on top of the person who isn't Tahm Kench, then that happens.
I could not have expected that.
Impossible.
It's almost like, yeah, you know what, I'm not even going to get into that one. So, yeah, that's a flash for the fact that he just already leveled up W. So, unfortunate.
Yeah, the only thing I can think there is that he was trying to get the knock-up onto both the Tahm Kench and the Ezreal, and then look for the knockback to separate the two.
Yeah.
But as you said, already had the Arcane Shift.
So taking a look at the runes for Chris, since this is going to be a nice highlight moment for Chris, of course, taking approach velocity, and of course glacial augment means that he's going to get the slow off, and if he gets the tongue, which slows the enemy opponent, he's going to be able to race up too. So that's a lot of movement speed that he gets for himself, and of course the slow that he's able to apply that. So that means that he's going to be a lot easier in getting the skirmish off initially. If he gets that tongue off of Loken, he can much more easily chase him down.
I feel like there's got to be a better way than saying give him the tongue, but
I'm going to keep saying it until someone tells me.
I mean, I definitely understand what you're saying, but it's all good. Top lane is actually getting ahead in terms of farm right now for Zoom. Gimgoon's focus appears just to be pushing the wave and poke the Scion as much as possible, but he is giving up quite a few minions to try and do so.
Yeah, the best thing about this, by the way, is that the lanes are coming off without a hitch, just because Pepper was able to get not only bottom side Scuttle Crab, but top side Scuttle Crab as well. So the early smite that Gimgoon was able to give Pepper is paying off, because Lee Sin doesn't want any part of that. So that means that Vladimir is going to have proper time skirmishing into the Scion just a little bit more, can walk up knowing that Lee Sin's not going to be able to impact him.
So
might help him out a little bit more too.
Aggressive from Pepper. This is the hallmark of Pepper's play, but it will be the Grump reset on this one, so Clid will get his camp.
Yeah, sure, he loses a little bit of HP. He doesn't get the Grump for himself, but he's able to track Clid. So now he knows that Clid's going to be top side. He's going to be taking Grump, and then he's going to be pathing towards bottom side of the map. That's going to be so much easier for FunPlus Phoenix because Vladimir's already allowed Zoom to push him in, so he has no worry about getting ganked in the top side of the map. The only worry from this point forward is going to be Rise. It's going to be bottom side of Crisp and LWX, and Rise has already placed the ward on the Raptor camp. So he's already placed the ward bot side, so when Lee Sin actually passes in that direction, well, what are you going to do? So already, I love this early game coming out of FPX.
It's really good to see out from the team so far, because generally it's been a trade happening in mid, a trade happening in top that generally puts FPX behind at this point in time. So right now, they're actually just trying to track the enemy jungle and allow the lanes to win by themselves.
Definitely, I would say, one of the smartest games we've seen, early games, coming in from FPX. They've been a lot more brute force-ish when they've had these early game advantages, but this time around, it's a lot smarter. And Clid hasn't had much of an opportunity to kind of make an impact.
Not yet. Not until he gets 6. And then he's looking at lanes, seeing if he can find an opportunity. It's actually the mid lane that I'm looking towards right now, because Bing is not falling that far behind Yagao. I mean, generally this is a matchup that goes pretty in favor of the Orianna, and we see big CS disparities open up. But some of that is the jungle, the fact that Lee Sin is unable to get involved, but that is also Bing at the same time.
Yeah, it's just because the 2v2 is incredibly important here. The 2v2 of both Pepper and Bing. So I think a lot of it comes down to if Yagao had the confidence of walking up and just using, of course, command attack and W as well. If he just uses it on top of just for the trading on Bing, then of course he wins the matchup. He can do that quite freely. But he recognizes that Kha'Zix is bottom side just around him or top side around him. They have vision of what Kha'Zix is doing, but they recognize that if there's any gank that comes through the mid lane, then they lose that 2v2. So he has to play a little bit more safely, which allows Bing to kind of walk up to the wave and clear it out. So it becomes a clear battle rather than, of course, getting that skirmish across.
Also damage in the bottom lane. Loken starting to get the better of this lane alongside Mao into LWX and Crisp. So relatively equal in terms of farm, but is actually a big health advantage that they are building up.
Yeah. One thing I'll even hit on that just a little bit more is that Mao, of course, has himself the Hextech flash traption. So even though he used his flash pretty liberally earlier on, he can still kind of provide pressure. You can sit in a bush.
Yeah, if he's got bush control.
Yeah. So bush control, that's a real thing where you have to watch out for the lethal tempo of Loken, who can just outtrade you with the Ren stacks. And you're like, all right, well, I don't necessarily want to go up against that, especially if Lee Sin, or at least the Alistar, can't get on top of me quite easily.
We're all waiting for that first play of the game really to open up here from both teams. I mean, Bing, typically the guy in the mid lane who just like to get out of lane as fast as possible. We see him on Talia most of the time. This time he's on Rise. He's also got the Brown Warp to try and do something similar if he wants to move towards the bottom side of the map.
And I think he should get to move a little bit more quickly now. Of course, level 7 for himself. He has TP. He has the ability to move. And with their team composition being a little bit more special because they have that double TP earlier on, they can make a play towards what is them getting pushed in the bottom side of the map. And they should start to make it a little bit quicker just because Sign is starting to get a real advantage in the top side alone just in the pure matchup. So if this continues on a little bit longer, then I'm a little bit worried about how Gimgoon's going to be able to fare in this top side.
So what I do want to talk about, Raz, is what Gimgoon has gone for here, because this is 8.2, so Frost Queen's claim does no longer exist. In fact, if you go down that tree with Frostfying, you get one of the Remnant items, and that's actually what he's gone for regardless. So I was like, is he going to just go Protobelt, or are we going to go back all the way to the original Vladimir builds that was like Protobelt or Spirit Visit, something like that early? No, he actually just still went for the Frost Queen's claim item that isn't Frost Queen's anymore.
Yeah. That's one of the worries, of course, of the Frost Queen claims no longer existing, because what it worked really well for the Vladimir was the movement speed that you got based off of that. That once you completed your quest item, you didn't get wards, you just got the ability to kind of chase your enemies down a little bit faster.
Yeah.
This time around, even just, of course, with the quest completion of the movement speed bonus, he doesn't get that. Just gets a bit of a gold, the gold that he gets from, of course, skirmishing. So, I mean, that's fair. I think that just kind of delays the items that he would rather want. In terms of getting the Leandries, getting the Zhonyas, the usual AP items that a Vladimir would want for himself.
Essentially, it's the toss-up of, are the stats on your item worth it to actually go for this item, or just instead just gunning for a full item like a Proto Belt? Because it is slightly more efficient, especially for supports because you get so much extra gold. You basically get a blasting one in terms of gold, in terms of how fast you can get the item, but you're right, like why not also just go for like a proto belt or something else that you're looking for in your full build.
Yeah. I just want to see a little bit more of this because I've never seen kind of this build coming in from a Vladimir.
Yeah.
People have actually just gone away from that entirely in terms of that build over, so it'll be fun.
Yeah, we will see as the game evolves what he's going for. He's actually has picked up the next item, so moving into either Spirit Visage or Proto Belt, actually.
Could definitely be that Proto Belt. If he goes towards the tank item build, I'm just like, all right, what are you doing up there?
Yeah, who knows? But Clid actually starting off in this Elder Dragon. He's got bot lane already moving up, so this one will be taken away. 100%. Chris was going to walk up and notice this happening, but it's too late. So, really good stuff out from Clid, just finding this opportunity. That was a little bit scary for a second. Chris being opened up on has to flash away. Really good flash from him. There was no reason to hold on to that one there.
Ultimately, just good move from Jingdong. Having the pressure in the bottom side of the map for so long and recognizing that the Infernal Dragon was up and available, why not just move towards it? So they weren't going to be able to get a hard advantage towards like a dive in the bottom side of the map because Orianna was kind of just playing safely. Then ultimately just get the Infernal Dragon. So now it's going to be in the back of FPX's mind, the next dragon, they might want to contest that. Sure, it's not an Infernal, but you don't want these dragons to start stacking.
And a concern in the top lane as well, I know we keep talking about it, but now that we're looking at it as well, Zoom has almost got a 3-wave advantage over Gimgoon just from laning through here. And I've seen a lot of it has just been Gimgoon pushing in constantly, so while he's had the pressure out from Pepper, that actually hasn't turned into a gold advantage.
Well, I mean, initially it was the push-in, but he's been at his tower pretty consistently, like in the later portions, even though the Observer hasn't been up there.
Yeah.
So that's been what's difficult, is being able to farm up underneath your tower. If you're the Vladimir, sure, he can sustain, and he's been able to stay in that lane for quite some time, but it's just been Zoom constantly pushing in on him, and that's where the difficulty's been really lying. So it's going to be tough, especially once he gets the resistance of the Abyssal Mask underneath him, Zoom.
It will be very difficult to take down. And moving towards this bottom lane once again, so while the CS is even, the pressure is only going over towards JD Gaming, though there is currently not a Callisto in lane, so that definitely makes it difficult for Mao to try and defend his turret here. Aldvek's probably just going to push this wave in. I'm not sure if he's looking for a back right here or just exhausting the ultimate. Good shockwave into the mid lane. Bing taking much of damage from this one, but the Rune Prison is empowered and will lock Yagao down as Clid was looking for a gank mid lane.
It was just good pressure ultimately. Of course, that could have been leading into a gank, but now knowing that Bing got chunked out by Yagao's ulti allows Clid the opportunity to start clearing out a little bit more wards, allow Loken, Alistar to kind of push out. So I like that in terms of pressure if Bing doesn't go back to base. And even if he does go back to base, that allows that small opening as well. So I like that coming out of Yagao really early on.
Just going back to this laning phase right here. Looking at the first complete items from a lot of players. Got the Rod of Ages in from Bing very early on. Rather Nomicon from Yagao. And Blade of the Ruin King in from Loken as well. Just looking towards Bing as there is an invade happening. Pepper and Bing, multiple wards coming down. Yagao being pushed away from this play.
Oh, they're going for it.
Going with the Realm Warp, just trying to scare them off currently, but now closing in from around the side. Pepper jumps right on top of Yagao, looking for the kill, but Clid able to jump back and pressure up Bing at the same time. Zoom actually coming in from the top lane, but Gimgoon also joins the play.
It's really risky. Look how low Bing is currently. So you're at a point. Sure, he's low, but I guess Jingdong don't necessarily want to go, oh, wait a minute.
Zoom charging up the ultimate. Pepper force splash over the wall. In comes Tam Kench. Zones away Mao. Mao actually coming in. He was looking for the EAs. Triple knock-up, but Zoom is a little far away. Looking for the decimating smash. Lands it onto 2. Q has landed, but Chris, where's the follow-up? In comes the Ezreal ultimate, and Zoom, he's backing away clean. I feel like that was a fat finger, but he'll manage to get out regardless.
Probably wanted to go for a ward hop there, but they still get out. So ultimately, that was a point in which Jingdong wanted to get the fight across. And I think they were in a great position to do so with Sion coming in from the flank, but no one expects the Tahm Kench to come up from the bottom side of the map.
Yeah, never. Another engage from Mao, lands onto 2, Zoom chasing him down, but it's actually Gimgoon who is in far too deep. Chris trying to make it out, but Shockwave is actually up once again. This will be another kill, this one going up to Zoom.
And this turns into another example of FPX biting off a little bit more than they can chew. Going in for a blue side invade once again when we already had a discussion of Bing just being too low in HP to even support the play. So that was never going to be a 4v4, even though it looked like that. So that was great from Lumao to start that off.
It looked like FPX was saying that Gimgoon, he's still full health, we can use him to zone, we can take the blue off, and then we can just scram. But yeah, the great re-engage out from Mao multiple times, really just turning up in this game, getting that engage to happen. But it does go down, as you said, back to FPX and how they approach these early plays and how they approach the skirmishes and how they approach the 2v2s. Like everything in the early game, it's aggressive.
That's
and
true.
sometimes it works, but it's like a 20% success rate.
There is change, though. I like the setup initially, but it just went on too long, and that was the case for it this time around. Sure, Bing gets saved out, but Pepper is far too low. They should be heading out, but just because, of course, Chris was able to save the first person, stuck around in the play just to be able to get it out. So you know what? Support dies for their troubles. So it was the setup that I was really impressed with when it was FPX. They started the invade when Bing had pressure. They started to put down proper control wards, getting into the blue side jungle. They thought they can narrow and zero in on Yagao. Jingdong had the proper read on that as well. It's just you need to know when to call it quits, and that's the one flaw that FPX had there.
Oh, cleared. Very aggressive into the enemy jungle. Pepper's going to be chasing him down. Comes in with the leap. Dodging the shockwave. Chris going to be gobbling up his jungler, and Clear trying to make it out alive, but he's found Bing right here.
No.
Loken with the heal. It might just be enough. Oh, LDS coming in with the snipe, and Loken forced to flash away. Chris in with the Abyssal Voyage, trying to close in around Loken right now. He's got Bing with him. Room Prison comes down, buys a bit of time, but in comes the teleport. Now, it's not going to be enough, I don't think. In comes Sion, does land the knockup, the follow-in as well. Loken dodges around, somehow still alive, able to chase down Chris and Ezreal. LWX trying to get out alive here, but it looks like Chris might be the sacrificial lamb as Zoom just get a slow down, allowing Lagao to come in there with a kill, and both of those kills go over to JD.
I cannot believe how many fights are going off 15 minutes into the game. We already saw the action happening on the top side of the map with Zoom impacting it. Has the TP to come back to the bottom side of the map because Gimgoon didn't have his. So that was just the difference. Zoom had a major impact in that. Doesn't matter how effective Chris was in saving people, how annoying he was, they're going to still be able to chase him down, and he dies once more for his troubles.
Plus the fact that Loken was able to kite out of that scenario. It looked like he was going to be dead for sure. But it was really good team play. In terms of mechanics as well, if you break that one down, like JD played exceptionally well. Gimgoon will get a lot of chunk damage on top tower, but I'm not entirely sure if he'll be able to pick it up. It'll be close, actually.
He should be able
to. He might
to
just tank it. Yeah, there we go. So he will get the tower on top side and even up the towers. But all those kills going over to JD is the real worry for FPX.
Exactly. I feel like at this point, it kind of showcases the fear you have when you're going up against a tank in general, but sure, going up against Sion here. That once he gets into the fight, you're like, well, it's a big elephant in the room and I don't want to deal with it. This was great coming in from FPX initially, but that's the issue when it comes to dealing with stopwatches, is that you have to waste a lot of time for it to come back up, and you have to reassess the battlefield. This time around, it was a massive truck in the form of Zoom, and they had to get away from it the moment they saw him.
This is also exceptionally well played by Zoom. He gets to slow down on LWX, just allowing Yagao to get in range to flash. It looked like he was going to get out, actually, but Chris was going to go down. And both of them die in the end, so 2 more kills over to JD and regaining control over the bottom side of the map. And it feels like all that work that was happening in the early game from FPX, setting up the waves, even coming in from Champion Select, having Pepper, the advantage over Cleared, allowing mid and top to do well, all that has become undone because of these plays. Just the play in top side around blue, the play in bottom side now around dragon.
100%. This feels like, even though the initial setup, what you can control in the story room, just kind of like your coach is in the room, being able to concoct what your champion select is supposed to do, taking the 2 scuttle crabs, everything was working so well for FPX. And then it comes down to those on-the-spot shot-calling decisions of whether we want to continue to chase or not, and they make the wrong calls.
Unfortunate mid lane now being sieged out from JD Gaming along with the Herald. It should be falling. And middle tower down at 18 minutes for JD Gaming. Absolutely crushing here.
With how early this team is starting to group up, it's getting harder and harder for Gimgoon to find an opening. He wants to be able to stay up top side, sure, but what objective is he going to go and get here? And if he goes up against a grouped Jingdong Gaming, what damage does he have in flanks? He needs more time to be able to build up his itemizing, especially with the support item that he built for himself. I don't think Jingdong are going to give it to him.
Yeah, they don't really have time. That is the issue for FPX. And if you look towards the Dragon as well, those are starting to mount up for JD Game. They got the Infernal, they got the Ocean Dragon. Next one's going to be Cloud, so a little bit of a smaller blessing for FPX, but at some point they need to try and find a play, make a play. But that would be very difficult when you look towards JD Game. You can see the goal totals as well. Just looking for anything in terms of a stark difference. Mid lane's actually pretty big, 700 gold there.
You look towards, okay, get out of there. When we ask, well, what play can FPX make? Because usually you'd require someone to be, a bit of an initiator. A tank maybe, something that can start the fight. They don't really have that. They have Rise. If you can go for an empowered Rune Prison, sure, then that's a pick potential that you have there. But remember that Ezreal is still scaling up. Vladimir is still scaling up. So you're really hoping that Tahm Kench Kha'Zix is going to be able to do that for yourself. And no, Tahm Kench is not going to be providing that damage. So this is what's really hard for FPX, is that they're at the beck and call, at the whims of what Jingdong are going to do going forward. I don't even think that Jingdong are going to focus on the next dragon anymore. They can evolve and look towards the next objective since the team fights are working out so well. They have such a strong dive composition. Why not dive these towers?
Oh yeah, that front line is just literally never going to die in these scenarios. Chuck in Mao, throw in Zoom, and then Yagao with the shockwave on top of it will be very difficult to kill. Especially because FPX, as you said, just don't have the damage right now to cut through the front line.
Yeah, they'll just need to be able to find a way to slow down the pace of the game. What they're doing right now is smart, having Ezreal push out the mid wave constantly. I think right now it's Jingdong, they're in the improper position. I would want their dual lane to be top side so they can look for the outer turrets, so they can start to get more vision control in the red side jungle. Currently, if you look towards where their wards are, it's nowhere near any bit of vision, so they don't necessarily see where Pepper is currently. That needs to change, especially with how far ahead they are currently.
Yeah, FPX are actually managing to control the top side rather well in terms of vision currently. There's wards scattered absolutely everywhere, including zombie wards. So Clear's having to do some spring cleaning right now.
Starting to move though. That's the first real change that Jingdong have been looking for. But because they used Loken to be the primary point of wave clear mid lane, they've been kind of having a smaller window to work. If they had Orianna mid, sure, she's a little bit more vulnerable, but if she's working along with Alistar, she's safe. If it's just the Kalista, it takes a little bit longer to push out the wave. You give more opportunities for FPX to be able to contest and push the lane up to the mid lane outer turret. So now they're moving, but it's just taking a little bit too long for my liking.
At the same time, you've got to look at bot lane. Gimgoon is slowly going to erode Zoom over time. It's going to take a long time, but all the charges have gone from the corrupting potion now, so that damage will start to stick. So over time, Gimgoon will start to push in that lane. So there is a bit of pressure on JD to speed it up, but not a huge amount. Bing is pushing up the top lane as well. Bing being in the side lane, being taken lane across from Yagao here. Teleport into a play, round warp from a play.
That's a cannon wave.
More defensive. Of course, we'll have the stopwatch still, but against 4 people, not a lot you can do. And his team isn't really there to help, and Pepper is, but nothing really a Bing and a Pepper are going to do in this situation. So good rotation out from JD, taking the last remaining on the turret.
Yeah, and ordinarily that Ezreal ulti would have cleared the wave, but it's because Jingdong chose that cannon wave to crash on that it was not going to happen. That tower was not going to be protected by anybody. So it was just kind of a nice thought to have to kind of maybe slim the wave.
But now it's next steps, right, from JD Gaming, because like, where else do you go from here? The top one was the last remaining out of the turret. Dragon's coming up now, but it's a Cloud Dragon. Like, they'll probably end up getting this one for free. So how do you open up the game now if you're JD?
Well, right now, mid lane takes priority, just because now that you can look to press vision both top side and bottom side of the map, you want to have control of Baron, but not necessarily want to try and rush it. Just want to take that out of the side, you know, out of your frame of reference, exactly. But then still have Dragon pressure. So then they'll be able to take Dragon freely. Lee Sin should be able to then solo that. And then they'll set up for blue side jungle pressure, get the control wards down there, and look for a mid lane dive. They've been working really well in terms of timing which wave to dive on, or at least play around. And I think this is no different.
It's just farming frenzy in the bottom lane. Zoom's job is just to stop Gimgoon from taking the tower and slow him down as much as possible. Bing, this could be a little bit awkward for him, but again, his job in the side lane is just to survive pretty much. He's got the Ghost, he's got the Flash, and he has the Zhonya's now, which he just upgraded from the stopwatch. So Bing is relatively safe in the side lane to keep on farming, allow this wave to just constantly be pushed towards him.
And
so
of course,
FPX are absorbing a lot of this pressure.
It is 8.2, so that's something you have to remember, is that Ryze can still utilize the stopwatch / Zhonya's to get himself out of these situations. So there is safety in having Ryze in a side lane just to push out. So that's a proper assignment from FPX to have him on side lane. If he gets ganged up on, then he has a way to get out of jail.
Here comes the back as well, in from the bottom lane of Gimgoon. I guess the top lane. It's going to be Blue going over to Yagao as well. And Liandry's Protobelt has been built so far, though Gimgoon is actually staying now in the bottom lane, decides not to go back on that one.
So already a lot of points have been hit from Jingdong even though they've decided to take full control top side rather than the bottom side of the map, they've had Lee Sin kind of take the dragon for free, rolls the dice just to see what the next dragon is. It's going to be Ocean, so it's going to be stacking. That's what I like about that. And also makes the Elder Dragon a lot more threatening. But then it gives now a lot more room for Jingdong to look towards this mid lane tower. We believe the mid lane tower is going to be primary, so how do you do that? Orianna has to push like one more wave. It's too risky to push 2 more waves, which is why you see Lee Sin and Alistar pushing with her, or at least moving up towards to give her that safety net. And then once she pushes out these waves, you can move back towards the mid lane. It's going to be a bit of a game of ping pong, just so she can do this safely, cuts down FPX's options, but it's the best way to play.
Yeah, eventually something is going to give. Though the back does come in first from Zoom, however, so Gimgoon will probably be able to pick up this tower in the bottom side. Let's Zoom.
I'm not losing this tower!
He is zooming back to lane. We're back.
Oh,
but
no!
Not in time, so maybe we're out. We'll see. Probably doesn't want to go for the full trade. Criff actually getting caught out. We'll have to go into that Grey Half and just flash over the wall to safety.
This is what's going to be difficult. I think this is the one lifeline that FPX have. Is going to be in the Vladimir. He's already gotten his Leandri's Torment. But at this point forward, once he starts getting more items underneath him, Zhonya should be the next one. He already has a stopwatch that he hasn't used, by the way. Lacking efficiency.
I mean, when else was he going to... Well, I guess he would use it in that play up top, but
oh, maybe
he was still dead.
But I mean, it's a bit of a jab. But ultimately, once he gets that third item for himself, he can start to have these longer trades with Zoom. And Zoom is not going to be comfortable kind of having these trades with him, especially now he's starting to build a little bit more selflessly. He's going towards, I would have to say, wait a minute. That's not a locket, is it? Is he going Banner of Command? I'm talking about the Scion pick. Ooh.
Maybe. I mean, it's actually really good into Vladimir because Vladimir cannot clear those minions for his life.
It's a possibility. Okay, he's joining the play.
We're going mid lane. Chris was actually just going to waddle out, though. That is the problem with Sion's ultimate, because it's a global call-out, so everyone's just like, maybe I should just walk away from where I am right now, and I can just dodge it 10 minutes in advance.
Yeah, when you see him leave the bottom side of the map, and then you hear a massive noise, you're like, I'm moving.
All right. I guess I'll just leave
here. And it's not even like a Kled ulti where it just zones in on you and it gives you your team a massive movement speed. No, it just puts you in a certain location. So
as weird as it is to say, Sion in the jungle is more threatening than open ground because you can actually wall drift and you can make some of those sharp turns that Kled is able to do. Whereas in open field, you see him from a mile away and you just walk off.
Yeah, this is what most difficult to say in terms of Sion players globally, is that where do you use your ulti, how do you use your ulti, how do you get primary effectiveness out of it? That's usually in a jungle fight or specifically like fights happening within a slimmer lane, like a bottom side of the map, top side of the map, where technically the enemy team doesn't really have many places to run, so it's very difficult to actually just lose out in it. How are you gonna miss? By the way, question's been answered.
Banner of Command.
It's Banner of Command.
Wonderful. I mean, if you look at the team of FPX, not only Vladimir, but who clears that minion? Like, who do you put alongside the minion to clear it?
It's
Ryze isn't gonna do it. Vlad isn't gonna do it.
Going to be Ezreal. That's the smartest purchase I've seen in quite some time, knowing that they're going against a double AP composition. And it's either going to be a Kha'Zix or it's going to be an Ezreal. So put it in the bottom side of the map and group with your team towards Baron. So it looks like Jingdong have already discussed. We're looking towards Baron pressure immediately. We're setting up waves for ourselves. I want to pan towards the bottom side of the map. I want to see if he's actually placed that. No, not yet, actually. His item still has it pretty much.
It has to be in tandem with the play.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, it's not even a cannon wave.
That's unfortunate.
He needs to lean back. Lean back to the next wave. That's actually a long way from now.
It's another 30 seconds away, yeah, so maybe the next one will be cannon. It looks like the 7 minions.
Oh, they're
looking for an engage. Oh, Pepper has been caught out, but Crispy's got his back. Spits him to safety, but now Tam Kench under pressure. He'll go into the Grey Hell, but it's Bing turning around the damage. Clint going to get all of that back, though. Bing goes into the stasis, but flashes away. Actually managed to get out there. Gimgoon and Pepper closing in from around the side, but they are extremely low. LWX gets a bit of time to poke away at JD Gaming, but have just lost the support.
Yeah, that was a slim frame of opportunity Zoom had to be able to knock up Bing when he came off the Zhonya's Hourglass. It's sad that he wouldn't be able to get it, because that would have been immediately a turn to Baron. But now Loken's actually healed himself up. They might just go for the opportunity regardless.
They've gone for the Baron. I mean, multiple members are low from FPX. Gimgoon's the one sitting around, able to place down a wall. He's got even more because he's got the item.
Yeah, that's true.
And Bing trying to get in range. Pepper over the wall. This will come down to a steal attempt, but it's probably going to be a one-way trip. There's going to be a big ultimate out from Gimgoon, but Pepper pops over the wall. Gimgoon, he's still in the middle of the fight. That's a lot of damage coming in for this one. Takes down one with him to the grave. But in the end, he'll still fall. That's a massive, devastating smash coming in from the Scion. 1 kill, and Bing getting chased down now as well. Loken, oh, what a pierce coming in, landing onto the Ryzer who's trying to escape. And Chris, wrong direction, buddy. He'll go towards the tower and die. A 5-for-2 trade, and the Baron to JD.
Yeah, full clear for that one. Incredible fight from Jingdong. And ultimately, I gotta wonder what FPX were trying to do when the Baron fight was happening, or at least the setup towards it. That's a Callista and an extra smite and an execute coming in from Clid. Like, that Baron is going to be theirs if you try and go for a smite fight. Pepper had to be in a better position for the fight. Vladimir did a lot of work, and you have to believe if Kha'Zix was in tune with that fight, that would have been a lot better from them.
Shockwave just slightly missing there on Pepper. That would have been absolutely cataclysmic for FPX to lose the jungle after the respawn, but they will now go back to base. Lots of gold to spend. Well, yeah, I really have to talk about Gimgoon right here because he did so much damage in this team fight.
But look at that. Immediately, Kha'Zix gets blown apart because he tries to steal Baron against Callista at half HP. You have to commit to the fight. Gimgoon was looking to commit to the fight. He did a lot of damage, but there wasn't the follow-up to back him up. I think if there was an extra bit of follow-up, you would have had that opportunity. It's a small criticism that would have meant the world to FPX.
Just a couple small things in that fight. There was a really sick cue from Ezreal just sniping Lee Sin mid-air as he was coming towards him. That was pretty cool. And Zoom also playing that fight exceptionally well, saving the ultimate as soon as Ezreal stepped forwards and didn't have Arcane Shift. Instantly pops the ultimate, instantly follows and chains with the rest of the CC, able to push him out of the fight.
It's a double knock-up on a Bing as well, because the best thing about this, if you're Scion, not only is Vladimir mid-range, not only is, you can debate about LWX because he's Ezreal, so if he's out of his Q range, then that's nonsense. But it's Ryze specifically who's a mid-range champion, so you can be able to get him if he's trying to kite back. If he's trying to use abilities on you, then you can get your knock-up, and he's able to get multiple ones in that fight.
I feel a bit sad for the banner of Command Purchase because it was very smart, but they didn't really need to use it in the end because they just kind of played the Baron for their well.
Oh, that's what you think. And then he's going to group up with a massive Baroned-up cannon wave. And who's going to kill that?
That's true. If he gets it on top of a cannon minion, the cannon actually starts to do a bunch of damage against towers as well when it's promoted and has Baron buff, so would like to see that one. Wave getting cleared out very quickly in the bottom side, unfortunately, and Zoom is pushing up top. It's going to take a while, he's Scion.
Yep, especially since, of course, it's uncontested.
There it is, there's the vote.
So this is uncontested. Vladimir's grouping with the team, and this is where the real problem lies, that Jingdong are not afraid to look for a dive with Alistar, Lee Sin, Orianna. That's a massive combination. So Vladimir has to be ready for it. He's not. He's sticking to the top side of the map. So Jingdong, when they are onto the next wave that's going to be coming up in about 10 seconds, they will want to look to fight. Vladimir will have to find a window of opportunity to escape Scion.
As much as we joke about it, this is becoming a massive issue because of that cannon minion. I'm watching Vladimir try to clear it, but he just can't. There's nothing he can do. He's just left.
It's actually sad.
He's just moving to bot lane, so maybe he can make a fight happen right here because he definitely can't lane alongside the Scion and his little cannon minion right there. Bot tower is going to fall right now. FPX, the fact that they're not deciding to go in, they're not really doing anything, starting to lose structures.
Yeah, they have to really ask themselves where they're going to draw the line because this top lane tower is already down. They're going to be even working towards the inhibitor. No real response to the massive waves coming into the top lane, mid lane, and now the bottom lane with the inhibitor down.
This cannon minion is literally just, he's been alive for so long. Nice knock up there onto Gimgoon, but now pressuring onto this second inhibitor of the play, but it's the last remaining inhibitor. Mao looking for the engage onto Bing. Does manage to zone away. That's all inhibitors down. FPX, they're looking for a fight. This has to be it. Mao popping the ultimate. He's low, but Redemption coming down. Gimgoon looking for the play once more. That's a big hemo play. How much damage can a Tides of Blood do? He needs the rest of the team in there with him. Gets a bunch of health back, but down goes Crisp, and Bing has to evacuate the premises. Oh, sick kick coming in from Clid. That'll seal the fate of Pepper. 2 kills over to JD. This might just be it.
Yeah, how are you going to stop this massive Scion that's going to be knocking down your doors? So even though you have all three of your carries, LWX, Bing, and Gimgoon, they recognize if they try to defend this, they're going to get dived.
In come the supers as well into the base, and with all those flooding in, I'm not really sure what FPX can do because they're not very good at clearing waves. Clid's low, but Zoom is still able to take the front lines. Both Nexus turrets are down, and this is just open ground now, and being caught out by himself. Zhonya's comes up, but Gimgoon, this is pretty much our 1 versus 4. He has to pull right here. Unfortunately, he cannot do it, getting chased down by Loken. Almost going to be finished off, but Zoom, he's onto the Nexus itself. Gimgoon managed to survive. And now Crisp, LWX all rallying to the play. LWX, he's low, but managed to kite back to spawn pad once again. Looking at the Nexus, though, it's already dead. And JD, they take game 1.
And that was depressing if you're FunPlus Phoenix, recognizing how fast that game turned. That was stock standard for Jingdong.
It really was. They absorbed a lot of what FPX were trying to do, and while the early plays were really good, I mean, honestly, this is what I feel like every time I watch FPX. Like, steps 1 to 5 are great, but then when we get to step 6, something goes wrong. Whether we're just trying to hammer home step 6 over and over and over again. If we didn't get something from the blue of play, let's go back to the blue of play until we get something, and that becomes the detriment of the team. And essentially, a lot of the games snowballed, and the ripple effect was felt throughout the whole game off that initial play, because it was the first 15 minutes that just ended up not mattering for FPX because of the play.
Yes. And so it really does come back to the discussion of growth coming into cross-conference. These teams in the, you would say, middle of the pack, how fast are they growing? There is real growth coming in from FPX. We've already mentioned that. We've hammered that. But it's not fast enough, because when it comes down to those on the minute, on the dot, shot calling, team fight moments, they are far too ham without necessarily recognizing when to pull back. That is going to have to be addressed going into the next game, because if their first 5 steps are working out quite well for them, there's no excuse for the next 2 steps to be falling apart. Yeah. Blue invade, that I know that's going to have to be discussed when we go into the analyst desk, because that's what really turned the tide. Was great from the FunPlus Phoenix. But then ultimately, they need to know when to just go back to their lanes and start continuously winning out in those matchups. Mid lane specifically. This was a good early game from Bing, but it didn't work out just because of that one play.
Yeah, unfortunately, it just all starts to collapse in the end from FPX. So we'll see if they can pull it back in the series and at least take 1 game up here against JD Gaming. But for now, we're going to send it over to the analyst desk to take a look at game 1.
Thank you, gentlemen. And where we want to kickstart this with is taking a look at Champion Select, because the draft phase coming out from Jingdong Gaming made it look like they had a plan coming into this match against FPX, and they executed really well.
Yeah, and this is really a very classical example of how you do the ban pick phase, when you're not necessarily trying to get something for yourself, not get a coherent composition, but trying to deny what the enemy team is good at. What FPX, their strong points are, is their side lanes, and what Jingdong did right here is they blind picked 2 very strong side lanes and basically stonewalled FPX for the entirety of the early game. The Sion pick coming out from Zoom, we've been talking about this guy, has been pinched in his champion pool, doesn't really have much outside of the Ornn. He showed up today. He showed a new champion pick and was at one point up 20 CS against Gimgoon, who had the counter pick in the Vladimir. And also, you look at Loken, he picked the Kalista. There was nothing that LWX could do against such a strong early game champion.
No, there was nothing that he could do there. In fact, LWX was not having a good time at all against Loken throughout the game. Gimgoon had a decent performance on the side of FPX, but it just wasn't enough for them. And Raz wanted us to talk about that blue invade. We kind of have to touch it, because Lu Mao played that game almost flawlessly on Alistar.
Yeah, there was a lot of times where it seemed like Lu Mao was going to lose, but he was going in so ham and getting so many knockups at the same time that he was able to turn that fight. And what that really showcased is sometimes FPX's loss of patience, because they did have the scaling 80 in the Ezreal on their side. They did have the Rise. They could go into the late game. Gimgoon had good fights, but they wanted something right there and right now, and Jingdong was able to punish them for that.
Right, exactly that. Jingdong were able to force the issue against FPX. They didn't allow the Rise to get to late game. They didn't allow the Ezreal to scale back up. So they had that insurance. So they had that late game policy ready. Instead, they took it to a Baron fight after a pick they got in the mid lane. And that's where the game completely swung in Jingdong Gaming's favor.
Yeah, and we have to remember that they did get an early pick before this fight. So this was a 4v5 situation. And we talk about the late game scaling coming into this fight. You could see that Vladimir does have a lot of damage. If he didn't have to fight in this 5v4 situation, they could have did something. And also LWX, we have to call him out right here. He actually had his arcane shift and his flash, still got run over by Zoom.
Yeah. Unforced errors coming out from LWX there, whereas Loken on the flip side played the fight very well, secured the Baron, picked up multiple kills, dished out a lot of damage, and I really want to bring it back to Gimgoon again. Yes, he was on the losing team this time around for FunPlus Phoenix. He got the Vladimir, did well in the champ, but we saw that Baron fight. He played it very well. The future fights as well, including the one at the top lane inhibitor, he played that well. Got a 4-man Hemo Plague, but still just not enough for him to carry the team in that match.
And this really feels like Jingdong's coaching UDJ is reading FPX very well. They know that the important thing is don't let FPX get rolling. If they're an impatient team, they're a new team, if you let themselves kind of hang themselves and just don't give them any action early on, they kind of fall apart.
Well, someone who definitely got rolling in that match was Zoom, who picked up Sion in the top lane, and he's the man that picks up MVP for game number 1.
Oh, that hand gesture. Come at me, bro.
Oh,
I've
no, you
got
don't have
all
to
the
come
champions.
at him. He's going to go to you, Colin. He's going straight to you.
Definitely. And we talk about this player, he's really, he's very easy to recognize because he plays those engaged champions so well. The Ornn and the Sion. This game we saw a lot of times he was actually just preemptively using his ult to kind of push back FPX's advances on the map, and that damage share is actually quite surprising. You look at that, 22%. He got a lot of hits on the backline.
Yeah, putting in a lot of work in the top lane on Sion, was able to pick up a few great team fights. We're about to go into game number 2 shortly, but in that match, again, JDG looked clean. Is this the execution we're going to expect from them throughout the rest of the series?
I definitely think so. If you look at their 20-minute KDA, it's the highest in the LPL, 7.5. And I do want LWX to, you know, stand by his words. He had the chance for the Kog'Maw. He didn't pick it because he was afraid of the champion pool coming out from the supports.
Well, LWX has been able to talk the talk, but hasn't been able to walk the walk just yet. We're going to go into game 2 shortly, but first we're going to go into a quick break.